The baby monitor crackled to life at 2:47 a.m., but it wasn't crying that filled the speaker. It was the sound of frantic barking, desperate and insistent, unlike anything Sarah Mitchell had ever heard from her golden retriever before. Within seconds, she would discover that her dog Max had been trying to tell her something that would change their lives forever. But before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another amazing tale of animal heroism. Now, let's get back to that terrifying night. Sarah jolted awake, her heart already racing. Something was wrong. Max never barked like this. The 3-year-old golden retriever had been the gentlest, quietest dog since the day they brought him home. He'd adjusted perfectly when baby Emma arrived 6 months ago, becoming her devoted guardian and constant companion. This barking was different, urgent, terrified, completely out of character. She threw off the covers and ran down the hallway, her husband David right behind her. The barking was coming from Emma's nursery, growing more frantic with each passing second. Sarah's mind raced through every possible scenario, each one worse than the last. Was Emma choking? Having trouble breathing? Was someone in the house? When she burst through the nursery door, the scene before her made no sense at first. Max was standing on his hind legs, his front paws pressed against the crib, barking directly at Emma, while simultaneously trying to nudge her with his nose. The baby was still asleep, seemingly undisturbed by the commotion, her little chest rising and falling peacefully. "Max, what are you doing?" David started to say, moving to pull the dog away from their daughter, but Sarah held up her hand, stopping him. Something caught her attention, a faint smell, sweet, almost sickly sweet, and then she noticed it. The small space heater they'd placed in the corner of the nursery, the one they'd been using to take the chill off these cold November nights. The outlet around it looked discolored, and a thin wisp of smoke was beginning to curl from behind it. "David, the outlet!" Sarah screamed. Max's barking intensified as if confirming her discovery. The dog had known. Somehow he had detected the electrical fire before it could fully ignite, before the smoke detectors could even register the danger, before any human could sense something was terribly wrong. David sprinted from the room, returning seconds later with the fire extinguisher from the hallway. He quickly unplugged the heater and sprayed the outlet and surrounding wall. The small electrical fire that had been smoldering behind the outlet was extinguished before it could spread to the wall insulation, before it could fill the room with toxic smoke, before it could reach their sleeping baby. Sarah scooped Emma from her crib, holding her daughter close as tears streamed down her face. The baby stirred, yawning softly, her tiny fist curling around Sarah's finger, completely unaware of the danger she'd been in. Max finally stopped barking, but he stayed close, pressing his body against Sarah's legs, his tail wagging with relief, his brown eyes still alert and watchful. "He saved her," Sarah whispered, looking down at Max with absolute wonder. "He actually saved her life." Before we continue our story, let's take just 5 seconds. If this story is touching your heart, please press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us because many more beautiful stories are coming. Thank you, my dear friend. Now, let us continue. The fire department arrived 20 minutes later to inspect the damage and declared that the Mitchells had been incredibly fortunate. The fire inspector, a veteran with 25 years of experience, explained that the outlet had been faulty, slowly overheating for hours. Within another 10 to 15 minutes, it would have burst into flames, and given the position of the crib and the flammable materials in the nursery, the outcome would have been catastrophic. "Your dog is a hero," the fire inspector said, kneeling down to pet Max, who accepted the attention with his usual gentle demeanor. "I've seen what happens when these electrical fires get going. If he hadn't alerted you when he did, we'd be having a very different conversation right now." That night, after the fire department left and they'd moved Emma to sleep safely in their room, Sarah and David sat on the living room floor with Max between them. The dog rested his head on Sarah's lap, his brown eyes gentle and trusting, as if this was just another normal evening.
"How did you know, boy?" David asked, scratching behind Max's ears. "How did you know something was wrong before any of us did?" Sarah had been thinking about this question since the moment she'd smelled that smoke. Dogs had incredibly sensitive noses, capable of detecting scents humans couldn't perceive. Max must have smelled the electrical fire starting long before it became visible, before the smoke detectors could pick it up. His instinct to protect Emma, his pack member, had overridden his normally calm demeanor, compelling him to sound the alarm the only way he knew. "We need to do something for him," Sarah said suddenly, her voice thick with emotion. "Something big. He saved our daughter's life, David. How do you possibly thank someone for that?"
Over the next few days, as they repaired the electrical damage and made the nursery safe again, Sarah couldn't stop thinking about how to properly honor Max. Dog treats seemed absurdly inadequate. A new toy felt insulting given the magnitude of what he'd done. This dog had literally saved their child's life. He deserved something meaningful, something that matched the incredible gift he'd given them. The answer came to her one afternoon as she was scrolling through her phone while Emma napped and Max lay at her feet, ever vigilant. She saw a news story about a therapy dog being honored for its service at a children's hospital. The dog had received a special medal and a ceremony recognizing its contribution to the community. That's when the idea struck her like lightning. Max deserved recognition, real recognition for what he'd done. But more than that, other families deserved to hear his story. How many people didn't realize their smoke detectors weren't enough? How many people didn't know that electrical outlets could fail this way? How many people underestimated what their family dogs were capable of sensing?
Sarah called the local news station the next morning. She was nervous, worried they might think it was silly or not newsworthy enough. But when she explained what had happened, the producer on the other end of the line was immediately interested. "Mrs. Mitchell, this is exactly the kind of story people need to hear," the producer said enthusiastically. "We'd love to feature Max on our evening broadcast, and I think I know someone else who'd be very interested in hearing about this too." 3 days later, a news crew arrived at the Mitchell home. They interviewed Sarah and David, filmed Max with Emma, and captured the repaired nursery where the incident had occurred. The fire inspector even came back to be part of the segment, explaining the technical details of what could have happened and emphasizing the importance of having working smoke detectors and regular electrical inspections.
But the producer had kept her promise about someone else being interested. At the end of the filming, she revealed that she'd contacted the American Kennel Club and the local chapter of the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals. Both organizations wanted to honor Max with awards for animal heroism. The ceremony took place 2 weeks later at the city's community center. Sarah had expected a small, quiet affair, maybe a dozen people at most. Instead, she walked into a room filled with more than 100 community members, local officials, and media representatives. A large banner hung across the stage reading Hero Dog Recognition Ceremony. Max, wearing a special blue collar Sarah had bought for the occasion, walked calmly beside her, though his tail wagged faster as he sensed the excitement in the room. Emma, dressed in a tiny pink dress, gurgled happily in David's arms, blissfully unaware that this entire event was celebrating the dog who had saved her life. The mayor spoke first, telling Max's story to the assembled crowd with genuine emotion. Then the fire chief presented Max with the Citizen Hero Award, a distinction usually reserved for humans who performed acts of bravery in the community. The audience erupted in thunderous applause as Sarah accepted the plaque on Max's behalf, and Max, as if he understood the significance of the moment, sat perfectly still and proud. But Sarah wasn't finished. The awards were wonderful, the recognition was meaningful, but she had something else planned, something that would truly honor Max and potentially help other families too. She approached the podium, her hands trembling slightly. "Thank you all for being here to celebrate Max," she began. "When David and I adopted him 3 years ago, we just wanted a companion, a family pet. We had no idea we were bringing home a guardian angel. The night of the fire, Max didn't think about his own safety. He didn't hesitate. He did what dogs have done for thousands of years. He protected his pack. In Max's honor, we are establishing the Max Mitchell Fire Safety Fund. Every penny raised will go toward providing free smoke detectors and electrical safety inspections for families in our community who can't afford them." The applause was deafening, but Sarah had one more surprise, the biggest reward of all for Max. The next morning, Sarah loaded Max and Emma into the car and drove to the local animal shelter where they'd adopted Max 3 years earlier. The shelter director was waiting with a smile. Inside a special room sat a beautiful 2-year-old golden retriever. She'd been at the shelter for 4 months, overlooked because she was older and calmer than the playful puppies. When Max entered, his tail began wagging in great sweeping arcs. Within minutes, they were lying side by side, completely comfortable. "Max deserves a companion," Sarah explained as she filled out the adoption papers. "We wanted to rescue another dog in his honor." She named the new dog Grace. The news segment went viral, shared thousands of times. Donations poured into the Max Mitchell Fire Safety Fund. Within 6 months, they'd provided free smoke detectors and inspections to over 300 families. 7 families discovered dangerous electrical issues after hearing Max's story. One woman wrote, "Your dog didn't just save your daughter, he may have saved my son, too." On the first anniversary of the fire, Sarah organized a community event in Max's honor. That evening, sitting on the porch with David, Max, and Grace, Sarah reflected on everything. Max rested his head on her knee, looking up with those gentle brown eyes,
and she understood that the greatest rewards weren't things you could buy. They were the bonds you forge, and the knowledge that when it mattered most, you were there for each other. If this incredible story touched your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more amazing true stories. Drop a comment below and tell us about your own hero pets. Thanks for watching, and remember to hug your furry family members a little tighter tonight.